First of all, I just want to say thank you guys for coming today. This is awesome. That's a full room in here. Did you guys watch the football game last night? I am so glad that Stafford didn't go out on a Hail Mary like that. He got the ball back, got him a win, and didn't have to lose that way. Still think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. On the screen it said NBC analyst. I sucked at that. I wanted to get better at it, but it was a time. It just drained my time. It was awesome. The folks at NBC were incredible. But it's like 12 games in a row. It's like 12 away games. At least in the NFL, you get 8 home games. 7 or 8 road games. So you're home. I was gone every weekend, and I hated that part about it. But it was a really cool experience. I told them to call me in 15 years when my kids are out of school, and I'll sign right back up. That would be fun. But right now, it's too much. I'm going to jump into a few things here, and then the way we're going to do it today is Tom's going to come up, and we're going to kind of have a little Q&A after the things that I say. If there's something that pops up, he and I can talk through it. If you have a question, we might do a couple Q&As. There's no ladies in the room. Those are when it gets real tricky, but today we could probably do that. And so, most of you know my background, so I'll keep this short. I'm honored to be here. I'm very humbled to stand up here. I know a lot of you in the room. I appreciate you coming today. Football may be how I'm introduced, but it's not why I'm standing here today. What I want to share with you isn't necessarily about sports. It's about how God forms a man. And so I've done this a few times before, but this is called the 4 H's. I have some of my guys on my team from Fort Worth came over here. I've had them do this. We were sitting in COVID. It's 2020. It was brutal. So you can't be in the same room together. So I had just broke my leg in Washington. We were playing the Eagles on Monday Night Football. I break my leg. I think kind of my career's over. I'm kind of contemplating retiring. I played 10 years, and Jason Garrett gets fired from the Cowboys. And he gets the offensive coordinator job at the New York Giants. And so he's calling me. There's a few other teams start calling me. I didn't think I was going to have a market. I had just broke my leg, and anyways, there was 4 or 5 teams that offered me. I ended up signing in New York. Well, we signed in New York, and it's COVID. And so you can't be there. Everybody's virtual. It is brutal. You guys all experienced this. And so you're trying to get to know your teammates. Like, I don't know anybody. I mean, I know a few guys, but I don't know everybody. And so, Jason called me after one of our meetings. We're going over the playbook virtually, and if I click on the link to see all the guys, half of them are sleeping, half of them aren't there. It's hard. You can't find a guy for falling asleep in a COVID meeting. They can just turn their screen off, right? So it's like, what are we doing? And so Jason was like, you got to help me figure out how we're going to get to know. He was big on getting to know your teammates. Learn something about them. So we did this thing called 4 H's. I had learned this from Sean McVay when I was in Washington many years ago. We did it in our quarterback room. So the 4 H's are your history, your heroes, your heartbreaks, and your hopes. And it is a fascinating way to get to know people that you want to get to know. You did it at HPI with our group. I've done it with all of our quarterback rooms throughout the years in my time in the NFL. And so I want to quickly give these to you because it's a good way to just kind of make an introduction. So I grew up in Buffalo Gap, Texas. Chuck, there is no Jim Ned, Texas. That's the high school. Okay, I'm from Buffalo Gap. There's 3 or 4 small towns, and we all go to Jim Ned Consolidated High School. Just clarify that. Small town where everybody knows everybody, right? My dad was my high school football coach, so football and family were never separate worlds for me. I graduated in a class of about 50 kids, and life was simple. Work hard, show up, do what needs to be done. One decision changed my future. I had qualified for the regional track meet in the hurdles, and I was not very good. But when you go to Jim Ned, the competition's not that strong. But I got invited to go to a one-day mini camp at UT. And my dad basically gave me the option. You can go run the track meet or you can go to this camp, and I chose to go to camp. and that led to a scholarship and the chance to play for 4 years at UT, which I'm very grateful for. We won 45 games in those 4 years, but if I'm honest, I still remember the 7 losses more than the 45 wins. 2010, I was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. My NFL career was full of highs and lows, for sure. Injuries, opportunities, but also I made lifelong friendships and experiences that I'm very grateful for. That same summer before moving to Cleveland, my wife Rachel and I got married. We just celebrated 15 years together. We have 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy, Sloan, Brooke, Judd, and Shay. And really, she has 5 kids if you include me. Heroes. Let's go heroes. My 2 greatest heroes are my father and my grandfather. My grandfather grew up with nothing, yet he became an incredible athlete, a Hall of Fame basketball and track coach at Abilene Christian University, and he was a farmer. And more than his resume, he taught me how to live. I spent every summer of my childhood with him on the farm. Hated it. Hated it. Picking up rocks, hoeing cotton, hauling hay in the heat, working cows. And every time I thought I was done, he would look up and say, "Hey, buddy, when you feel like you can't go anymore, keep going." One of my favorite verses in the Bible is Colossians 3:23. It says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if you were working for the Lord." That verse didn't just shape my work ethic. It shaped my view of life. I witnessed it. I saw it. Let's go heartbreaks. Life brings heartbreaks. You boys know this. Everybody's experienced heartbreak. Maybe some of you are going through it now. Early on in my marriage, Rachel and I walked through some painful pregnancy challenges. Multiple times, multiple years. That season marked us. But it made us profoundly grateful for our kids that we have today. In sports, I lost 2 state championships in high school, dadgummit. 1 in football, 1 in basketball. In college, we lost the 2009 national championship game. I was devastated. I was injured on the first drive of the Rose Bowl. One of the greatest atmospheres you'll ever experience. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. In the NFL, I had multiple chances to be franchise quarterback. Multiple. Most markets I played in. And every time I got hurt. I just could not stay healthy. Eventually, I had to retire because I got an elbow injury. I couldn't overcome it, and that injury forced me to ask questions that I had avoided for a long time, which we'll jump into here in a minute. But, okay, so history, heroes, heartbreaks. Let's go hopes. What are my hopes? Trust me when I tell you that I'm not perfect. I'm not standing up here telling you how good I am. That's not my heart. I've got many flaws. But I do try to carry myself to a standard every day. I believe this deeply, that the highest reward for your work is not what you get from it, it's what you become by it. Football was a gift, but I don't want it to be the highlight of my life. I want my greatest impact to come after the applause fades. One of my deepest hopes is to see the end of the foster care crisis in America. I believe it's solvable through accountability, transparency, and collaboration. It's about others, right? My wife and I sit on a nonprofit called For Others. It's a national nonprofit. Great board members, some of my best friends in the world. For Others is a public-private partnership with states, really to loosen the red tape, to support kids in need, to try to keep families together when they're getting separated. We raise awareness and empower best-in-class organizations to end the child welfare crisis in America. The goal is to serve the most vulnerable in our communities, and that's the children. We care for them, and we work alongside local governments to assess their needs and connect them with local nonprofits that provide them with a lot of data-driven solutions. It's been really eye-opening for me. So those are my 4 H's: my history, my my heroes, my heartbreaks, and my hopes. It's a good way to get to know somebody that you want to get to know. But all that leads to the question that I think we should all wrestle with today. What happens when the thing that you're known for is gone and God asks you to trust him with what's next? That's not a football question. That's a manhood question. That's a faith question. That's a Jesus question. God refines men. And I don't want to get too preachy here. I'm not up here because this is really for me, to be honest. I'm sharing things that have helped me. But wisdom doesn't fall from the sky, right? Your character isn't downloaded overnight. Refining is a process. It burns. Refining removes things that maybe we don't want removed. And often we don't even know what needs to come out until it hurts. Football was a great gift and a great teacher. I loved it. I'm in love with it. I still love it. Football is incredible. Right? It gave me structure. It gave me affirmation. It gave me brotherhood. It gave me clarity. I knew who I was. And throwing a football, people don't talk about this, but I'm playing quarterback. Throwing a football, when done perfectly, it's the best feeling I've ever known. Yeah, I love sports. I played all the sports in high school. It was a small school. You had to play. I got gifted a set of golf clubs when I was a junior and said, "Hey, welcome to the golf team. You're the fifth member of our team." Great. I learned how to play golf. But it's better than a swish. It's better than sinking a 10-foot putt. It's better than going yard, hitting home run. I was a psycho. I used to take a football every offseason and look at myself in the mirror and be like, I got to change my arm angle, get in the right slot. I need to adjust. Where do I want to hold the ball? Do I want to hold it down here? Do I want it up here? Where's that sweet spot? And if you look throughout my career, things changed because I was just trying to perfect it. I practiced it all the time. I wanted to be perfect. Then you add in game week. You're watching film. You're breaking this team down. You take it out to practice. You put the game plan together, and then Sunday comes, and you see the defense, and you see the structure, and you hit this motion, and they travel with them, and now you got the look. So you take the snap, you step into it, freaking tight spiral, perfect spin. It's excellence. There's nothing like it. It's clarity. It's purpose. But here's the lesson I want you to think about. Sometimes God gives you exactly what you want, just to show you what you don't actually need. You can chase it. You can live it. You can achieve it. And you can still discover that it pales in comparison to what's available in Christ. And that's refining. So I had an elbow injury that ended my career. I wasn't just losing football. Football is great, but I wasn't just losing football. I was losing who I thought I was. And that's a lot deeper than your career's over. The question that haunted me was one that probably a lot of you guys in this room have asked. Who am I if I'm not this? Men, us, we don't like to admit that. We bury it under work. We bury it under achievement. We bury it under strength. But sometimes God doesn't rush grief. And Jesus meets us in our victory, or not just in victory, but in loss, right? In pain. A lot of times that's where Jesus shows up. When I was going through this process, it was coaching made perfect sense. 95% of the people in my life were probably thinking I was just going to be a coach. And that would have been amazing. Because if I didn't have a wife and 4 kids, that's what I would have done. Because I love the game. I told you I love the game. I still love the game. Right? Many sleepless nights. My last year in Arizona, I was on IR. I was still around the team, but not playing. It's almost like God gave me this extra time to really think about what I want to do. A lot of prayer with my wife. My wife's amazing. She's incredible. But this was really the first time in my life where I brought her into, hey, let's do this together, right? That's a challenge. Bring your wife in big decisions. I could have been a coach. The markets that I played in, the owners that I know, the coaches that I know, the teammates I've had, the experience I have as a quarterback. I know the systems. I know the game. I know it. I knew I could be that. I wanted to be that. But I also would wake up at night and sweats and thinking like, I don't want my Sloan, my daughter, when she's 18 years old, to be walking out of the house and I don't even know her. I lived that life for 14 years. I loved it, but it's a sacrifice. You know, I think that's one reason I wanted to buy time back with my family and with my kids. And I knew as a competitor, if I jump back into this coaching thing, like I'm going to be sleeping on my couch at the office. I'm going to be putting game plans together because it's what I love to do. And that's how you do it. So it's all the best coaches I've seen, they don't ever go home. The second part of that is that I struggled with people in football not understanding me and not understanding why I was going to leave. The phone calls from coaches and front office people and owners of like, why are you you're teed up. You could be a head coach in the next couple years. Like, why are you leaving? This makes no sense. And the struggle of dealing with them, they still don't understand. The struggle with them is them not understanding me and kind of why I walked away from that. But God was calling me to something different. That's all I have for you. It's that God was calling me to something different. Something that cost comfort, applause, understanding. And here's where refining got real for me, was I spent just being honest, I spent a lot of time asking why. Like, why now? Why does it have to be this way? Why take this from me? But eventually, through that period of time, God led me to a better posture of submission instead of explanation. And I think most of our spiritual frustration comes from demanding answers. Why? I need to know this. What's going on? Instead of offering just obedience. And so through that, I stepped into a new career. I moved back to Fort Worth. It's been amazing. I always wanted to get back to Texas, and to be able to plant our flag in Fort Worth and to raise my family there and kind of be there has been more than a blessing. I love it. And then I got the opportunity to open an office and run a business in Fort Worth. All three of my partners are here: Tom Leiser, Pryor Blackwell, Chuck Anderson. I got a bunch of my Fort Worth boys on the team over there. It's been incredible. New skills, new team, a brand new humility for sure. I hired people who are smarter than me, way smarter than me. I mean, I ask dumb questions every day, but I'm learning, I'm growing. I wake up every morning with a smile on my face, getting to go work and do something new, and still lead a team, and still learn a new skill. It's been incredible. But here's the point. So my story isn't extraordinary because it involved football. Your story isn't ordinary because it doesn't. Because if you're a son of God, there's nothing small or common about your life. There's nothing ordinary about you. You can be a coach, you can be a high school coach, you can be an NFL coach, you can be a plumber, you can be a banker, you can be a business owner, whatever. It all matters to him. Because God placed you where you are, success or failure, for a reason. And the truth humbles success. Success gets humbling because you know it's not because you're great. And so kind of through all this journey, which I kind of shared in 15 minutes, John 6, if you haven't ever read John 6, I'd love for you to go back and read this, when we leave. But there's a last piece in John that just really I sat in through a year and a half of making big decisions and big choices, and moving and starting a new career and walking away from something that I was, quote unquote, the expert at. Like, there was a lot of just change in my life. But if you look at John 6, all the things that led up to this point, Jesus said fed a crowd of 5,000 people. It's a miracle. He healed an invalid at the pool in Bethesda. He turned water into wine. He heals the high-ranking official's son. He walks on water. He heals and saves the Samaritan woman at the well. He saves the disciples in the boat during a storm where he was asleep in the stern of the boat. And all these people are following him for what he gives them. And then all of a sudden at the end of John 6, Jesus' teaching gets hard, real hard. He offers himself. Everyone just wanted more miracles and more things from him, and a lot of people walk away. In football, you learn pretty quickly. Let me rephrase this. I played in Cleveland for 3 years. Okay, let's start there. Okay. In football, you learn pretty quickly that not everyone loves the same thing. Right? Some guys genuinely love the game, like love it. The early mornings, the grind, the soreness, the discipline, the film room, the condition, like all of it. They love football even when it costs them something. Then you have some other guys that love what football brings, which is fine, right? The crowd, the recognition, the running out of the tunnel, the hoorah, the status, the fame, the feeling of being important everywhere you go. Like, that's a real thing. And you usually don't know who's who until the season gets hard. Right? When the wins stop coming, when the body hurts, when the work outweighs the applause, when you're playing quarterback for the Browns and you're playing against the defending Super Bowl champ Steelers, the last game of the year, and they're going to the playoffs and you're going home, and it's 2 degrees outside. It's like you can look around the locker room and not find anybody in there, right? Some people just quietly disappear. But that's what we see happening in John 6, right? Jesus is feeding crowds and healing bodies. He's useful. He's impressive. He's meeting everybody's needs. But then he starts talking about hard things, about, eating his flesh and drinking his blood. Like, what does that mean? About surrender, about life coming only through him. Like, the only way you can have eternal life is through me. And then the tone just completely shifts. Verse 60, the disciples look at each other and they say, this is a hard saying. Like, who can listen to this? And many of the disciples walk away. Like, I'm out. What changed? Jesus didn't become less loving. He didn't become less true. He just stopped being convenient. And I think, this forces me to ask an uncomfortable question. It's like, do we follow Jesus because we love him or because we love what he does for us? And like football, following Jesus has these moments of joy and victory and success, but it also has a cost. And there are seasons where, in our lives, where Jesus doesn't always fix things. He doesn't fix them right away, at least. Or where wins are hard to come by. Maybe obedience feels a little bit heavy. Where your faith doesn't really bring applause. It doesn't really bring comfort. It doesn't really bring success. And that's often where our hearts are revealed. And so, if you don't remember anything today, like, remember what Peter's response is at the end of this. So in verse 68, it's the heart of the passage, one of my favorite passages in the Bible. Jesus asked him, like, are you guys going to leave too? Like, y'all gonna bail? And Peter's like, Lord, like, where else am I going to go? Like, you have the words of eternal life. Where do I go? Where else am I going to turn to? And I think that is so powerful because, Peter doesn't claim full understanding. He doesn't claim that he has perfect faith. And he recognizes, like, there's nowhere else to go. There's no substitute for Christ. There's no other source of life. This moment with Peter might be one of the most honest statements of faith in all of Scripture. Because Peter doesn't say, yeah, I'm going to do this because I understand everything now. He doesn't say, this all makes sense to me. Yeah, let's do it. He doesn't say this is easy. He just says something much simpler and much deeper, like there's nowhere else to go. And I think Peter recognizes something the crowd couldn't accept. He recognized that Jesus is not just one option among many. He's not a teacher we compare. He's not a path that we're just going to sample for a little bit. He is the only source of life. And I love that Peter's faith here isn't just like dialed in on certainty, right? I'm certain about this. Like that, no. It's built on dependence. He's saying, even if this is hard, even if I don't fully understand, even if following you costs me something, you alone have the words that give life. And I think because this resonates deeply with me. If you look at the last 2 years of my life and I'm not saying I'm more important than you guys are, but this has been real for me in the last 2 years. Hard choices, leaving something that I love, going to start something new, and kind of going all in with that. Pulling my wife and kids along, putting them in new schools and new places. It's been hard. But there are moments when our faith isn't about feeling strong and certain. There's moments where we have to realize that every other place we turn might come up empty. Money doesn't last. Our health will fade. Our stability shifts. Even times our confidence fails. But when those supports fall away, faith doesn't really look for a replacement. It just clings to Christ, and that's really my encouragement. Is like no one in this room is going to get anywhere without clinging to Christ. Not because he makes life easy, because he doesn't, but because he is life. And when Jesus looks at the 12 at the end of John 6 and is like, you guys want to go away? Like, do you want to go away as well? It's not a trick question. The crowd's gone. The benefits have dried up. What's left is Jesus and a decision. And Peter's answer is raw and honest. He's like, Lord, where shall we go? And I think for me, as Tom comes up here, and we're going to start asking, he's going to, ask me a couple questions here, have a Q&A. Maybe you guys have something. I think the question today is like, if you don't know, like if you don't have answers, if you're struggling with something, like talk to the guy who brought you here. Lean into them. Find your purpose. Find that thing that's going to matter the most at the end when it's all done, when it's all taken away. Like when you leave here, make sure you know where you're going when you die. Like that's my encouragement. It's like, if you're holding on to something because you're afraid of what's next, like walk through that with the person that brought you here, right? If you're delaying making a big important decision because you're unsure and you're uncertain, like take it to the Lord. If you need to talk to somebody, I'll make myself available, but there's a ton of guys in this room. Authenticity isn't having everything figured out. Like I've been around a lot of superstars, a lot of A-list celebrities, a lot of people. Like they don't have it figured out. Being authentic is staying with Jesus when you don't have it all figured out. And I think that's probably the most important thing for me through this journey. And I'm not trying to make it about me, but I'm just telling you, football was amazing. I'm so grateful for all the things that I got to do and the doors that were open because of football. But it doesn't mean it's easy. Making a transition is hard, and I'm so glad to be where I'm at now. But at the end of the day, like clinging to Jesus is really the only certain thing that I have. And that would be my encouragement to you guys. So I thank you for coming and listening to me ramble a little bit. But when Tom and I were talking, that's kind of where he wanted me to go, what he wanted me to share. And so let's come up here maybe you could talk. I don't think they want to listen to me talk anymore, but this has been great. I appreciate you guys so much.
You did some pretty good coaching today, I'll tell you that. That's good stuff. You said so many things. So I'm going to ask a few questions, but that's to give you guys time to think of the questions you want to ask Colt in just a second. And you said so many things that I want to drill down into, because I love finding out how guys internally process stuff that's going on. And you've mentioned a lot of challenging things. Okay, so let's roll back into football world for just a second. So you talk about Rose Bowl, first series, getting dinged bad, you're out for the game. And your words were, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, okay? So that's a pretty strong statement. So all of a sudden you find yourself kind of pulled out in that moment. What do you do with that? What do you do with it in the moment? What do you do with it after the moment? What do you do with it 15 years later, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have the answers then. I don't have the answers now. I would just say, very rarely does anybody interview the loser of a football game, much less a national championship, right? Like, I was just trying to make my way to the locker room. I was defeated. I kept my pads on the game because I couldn't really take them off. My whole arm was gone. And then she put, I think it was Lisa Salter. She puts a microphone in my face and was like, "What happened?" And I'm like, I don't even know. I can't do it. And I ended up having some broken ribs, shoulder deal, and the main thing was a nerve that just shut my whole right side down.
Wow.
But I'm so thankful in that moment that, I was just able to share what was on my heart. The night before, I had read Isaiah 26:3, and it says, I'm standing on the rock. Trust in the Lord, for the Lord is the rock eternal. And where else am I going to go? In that moment, it was like that's all I know to be true.
Yeah.
And it was hard. I mean, I dealt with that. I still deal with that injury. Rehab it all the time. I'm reminded of it all the time. And the hardest part was not me. I mean, I was pissed off. I was disappointed. But it was also hard for the rest of my team. I mean, my coaches, my teammates. I played for 4 years. There's nobody ever got under center at that point besides me. And so it was deflating for all of us. And to have it end that way, that's one of the questions I'm going to ask when I get to heaven someday. I'm like, dude, of all things, like, in that moment, like, seriously. But it is what it is. That's life, and you have learned a lot of really good lessons from that. And I was thankful that it didn't end my career completely, which there for a while I thought it did. I went from being a first-round pick to, somebody taking a flyer on me in the third round. So it was just a lot of lessons that I had to learn in life, and hard deal.
Yeah, wow. But I love what you said there, even because I'm always looking for a principle I can take and go with. So you said the night before I was just reading, and that's when you had the Isaiah verse about being on the rock, okay? I remember somebody telling me once, you can't pour a foundation when it starts raining. Right? The foundation needs to come before the storm. And that's one of the things that you had done in that moment. I mean, even, whether it was the immediate foundation of the night before, just kind of exposing yourself to something that would provide some strength when the storm hits, but probably for a lifetime before that as well. So that's beautiful. Okay, so that's a tough point. Do you have like a favorite football moment, high school, college, pro, like it's the play? You talk. I love when you were describing throwing the ball and the feeling when it all works, and it's like you've mastered life for just a second, right? Yeah. When you throw it like that. Is there a play like that? Is there a moment? Is there a game? Whatever.
I get asked that question all the time, and I don't have a great answer. But I will say, I was tasked with following the shoes of Vince Young, which was a tall task, and I redshirted my first year. Vince was the quarterback. Coach Brown tells me that I was technically the backup. Like, if something would have happened to Vince, I would have played. I'm glad nothing happened to him, okay? But back then, if you played one play, your red shirt was burned. It's different. It's different now. But I remember after the game, we win the national championship. We're going home, and I'm like, I am in my head big time. I'm happy that we won. It was amazing. What a year. But now Vince is leaving, and it's like the quarterback job is wide open. And I remember sleepless nights thinking, like, there ain't no way I can do this. There's no way. Like, I am not Vince Young. Like, people are going to be highly disappointed when I roll out there thinking I'm gonna be Vince Young again. And so it was a journey of like, I'm going to get an opportunity to go earn this job, but I don't know if I can do it. And so I feel like that moment, that whole year of just working and training and understanding that, like, what are my strengths? What is my edge? Like, Vince is 6'5" and runs a 4.4. Like, it ain't gonna happen, right? Like, what do I bring to the table that's gonna work? And I just dove into those things: accuracy, footwork, making good decisions, understanding structures of defenses, understanding our offense, making calls and checks and audibles to get us in the, because I can't just make it happen I gotta be a step ahead. And I just started creating this edge over and over, and a lot of the same things I'm trying to do now, and learning a new career. It's like I'm going back to 7th grade and I'm learning how to put my pads in my pants again, and I'm not ready for coach to call the play yet. I'm like still learning how to strap up my shoulder pads. That's what I really honed in on. And I remember going up to Coach Brown's office and telling him, I told him, I was like, look, Coach Brown, I really do want to be the quarterback here. I could see Coach Brown to this day. He's sitting behind his desk, kind of chuckling, I'm sure. Like, sure, everybody in the world wants to play quarterback here, boy. But he looked up and said, hey, listen, that'd be great. It'd be great. So I believe me, I gave you a scholarship, I found you out in this little podunk town in West Texas, so don't disappoint me. But nothing here is ever going to be given to you. Everything's going to be earned. And I walked out of that, and I was like, man, that sounds like something my dad or my granddad would tell me. I can figure that out, right? So I just worked hard and tried to figure out what is going to allow me to be the best version of me that's going to be helpful to the team. And every game I played till I graduated, I felt like somebody was coming to take my job. I wanted to get better and better and better. And luckily, I don't know if anybody's going to play 4 years ever again in this state of college football. So I feel privileged with that too.
Yeah, 53 starts, something like that. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, I wonder.
Something like that. That was a long time ago.
That's what my piece of paper says. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's good. So okay, so they'll ask some more questions about football, I'm sure, in just a second. I want to ask another question because every guy in here hits these crossroads, whether it's daily, weekly, or larger segments of time and some of the major things. We all have to make decisions, right? So you kind of describe sort of the pain, if you will. I love that expression, that God doesn't rush grief. So kind of letting go of who you were, how you were defined, and moving to something else is a hard thing. But you still got to go to something else. So you have to make a decision where you're going to go and what you're going to do. And you said that you decided you were going to do it together with your wife. Can you, maybe it's not that crystallized, but can you take us down into how do you make that decision? How did you conclude this is what I'm going to do? I know you said for the sake of your family, you're not going to go to coaching, but how do you make decisions? Right? Got a grid, got a, yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of hit it earlier. That was really when, like, the times that you don't get to pick where you want to go when you get drafted. So, the Cleveland Browns call you, and you're like, dang, all right, I'm going to Cleveland. So you go, family goes, and then, you become a free agent, and, you go to the highest bidder if that's what's your best situation. And so, throughout my 14 years in the NFL, it was more like, I'm going, y'all pick up the pieces, Rach, the kids, you meet me here, I'm on a mission, everywhere I went. When I tore my elbow up, it was like, man, it's over. Like, came sooner than I could have easily played till I was 40. I was playing good football. I just couldn't stay healthy. And so then it's like, all right, I think the Lord really encouraged me to bring my wife in. I had, but not in this, like not in a big choice, in a big decision. And so we prayed intently. We prayed separately. We prayed together. We had a big whiteboard in our master bedroom at night when the kids would go down. I'm a visual learner, so I'm writing up the pros and cons of, well, if I went coaching here, I'll be the head coach at this place in 2 years, And then it was like, well, if I leave, like, what am I going to do then? And then we just kind of backed it up to, like, where do we want to live? It's the first time in my life I got to choose where I wanted to live. I wanted to get back to Texas. And, we ended up coming to Fort Worth, and that was a beautiful journey of how that happened. And then, I moved to Fort Worth without really knowing, that I wanted, not have a job and just kind of hang out. I don't think that's what God's calling me to do anymore. I want to go. And so then God put a lot of cool people in my life, and we started kind of walking through that. End up, running a company and building a business with HPI and opening up in Fort Worth, and that was cool. But like my wife was with me through that journey, and she's a part of it, and my kids were a part of it, and they understand. And I remember when I told my kids, that I was going to retire, and my daughter, she was probably, I guess she was 8 at the time. She was like, "What are you going to do, Dad?" I was like, "Sloan, I don't know." She goes, "Well, you should open up a restaurant. You're really good at making eggs in the morning." I was like, "Okay, great idea."
Colt's
maybe,
Cafe, man.
yeah.
I love it.
So it was a really special thing, and I pinch myself when I wake up every morning. The guys that I've surrounded myself, at work now, the character of them, the expertise that they have, and how much fun it is and challenging it is, and I'm thankful for my partners, and it's a whole new world. But I've dove in, and it's been really, really rewarding for me, going off and learning something that I've got a lot of room to improve and a lot of area for growth, but I couldn't be more pleased.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, yeah, I've got a ton of stuff, but I don't want to steal all the time because I'm sure some guys have some questions. Anybody have a question for Colt that you'd like to ask? Anywhere? Right here. Yeah, right here. Good and loud. Stand up for you. Thanks.
Most of us are believers. You can hear me.
Yeah.
They're recording. They're recording. Yeah. Okay. So what I was going to ask, and by the way, thank you for your testimony. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for your legacy, your integrity. It's hard to find. I watch my kids watch so much noise. They've come a long way in their faith, but I've seen too much noise. So thank you for your message. Thank you for reflecting Him. So you said something that I've just started to learn myself, how to see Jesus in my wife so I can have greater unity with Him. She has greater unity with Him. Thereby we have greater unity with each other. Can you share that in your own journey?
Yeah. Yeah, it's deep. Marriage is a commitment. Marriage is a covenant. Like anybody that's married in this room, you signed up for that. That's protected. That's a union formed by God. And so we as men are workers. We're doers. We want to be challenged. We want to build something. We want to go. And like playing in the NFL for all these years, like just fed that in me. It was amazing. And my wife was amazing. I mean, the amount of stress of moves and finding new schools and being thousands of miles away from anybody in our family and just doing it on her own, like I can't even, I look back and I'm like, I don't even know how you did this. Because I was on a mission. And so my eyes were really opened when, her and I have really just become a whole lot closer through all of this. To bring your wife in, to pray together, to make decisions together as a couple. What's best for us? What's best for our family? What's the best situation? What can we do? How's God lead? I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll be real honest. Like it's hard to pray with your wife. It's really hard. I could pray with my kids all day long. But to go sit down and pray with my wife, that's hard. For whatever reason. Then praying for deeper things, praying for her, asking her questions like, what are you reading? What are you studying? What's God teaching you? Like that's a step, okay? But I encourage it. Like, I was terrible at that for a long time. And I knew Jesus and she knew Jesus, and that's ultimately what held us together. But now it's so great to be able to look back to 2 years ago and see where we are now and know that we both diligently prayed through this, and she was a part of it, and we're in a great situation. And doesn't mean that life's going to be perfect or simple or easy, but it helps us know that, like, we're right where we're supposed to be. And so my encouragement would be, take that step. Ask simple questions. How you doing? Can we pray together? Like, I'm telling you, it's hard. I'm not telling you it's easy. But that would be, you'd be amazed at how much you will grow alongside her and see her blossom too.
Outstanding. Anyone? Yeah, right there.
I love your heart, Colt. Do you mind sharing? I know how close you and your family are with the Shipley family and with Jordan and your brotherhood with him. Just talk about that brotherhood and then how we can be praying for Jordan.
Yeah, I should have said this earlier. I meant to bring that up at the start.
That's right.
Guys, Jordan was in extremely bad shape. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I'll never get that visual out of my eyes, at midnight, the first night that this all happened. He burned himself up. But praise God, he left the hospital yesterday. I mean, it is unbelievable. Yeah. He's tough as nails. Not many people, including myself. I mean, there's not many of us that would have survived what he had to go through. But he's going to make a full recovery. He's still got a couple surgeries that are going to have to happen. But from where he was to what he is now, I'll tell you, like, about 48 hours into him being in the hospital, 3 days into being him being in the hospital, they were going into like the third or fourth surgery, and the three doctors walk in the room. Sonny's sitting there. I'm in the waiting room, and he basically tells Sonny, like, hey, like, he's made good progress, but we're gonna put him under. We're gonna be in there for 3 or 4 hours, and we're gonna, the spots that need skin grafts, the spots that, we're gonna get a real detailed look at where he's at. A couple of his fingers were in question, and the doctor just basically told Sonny, like, hey, listen, just make yourself comfortable in here. Probably 3 to 4 hours. We'll be back. And then they walked out, took Jordan out. Well, Sonny's in her room. She's like on her knees praying. We're all praying in the waiting room, and the doctor walks back into the room 20 minutes in. Sonny was just laying down, and all three of them, all experienced doctors looked at Sonny and was like, I don't know. I don't have words. We've never experienced anything like this. We put our tools away 15 minutes in. He's going to make a full recovery. And I mean, awesome. The prayers of everybody, like, it's really, I know he's a stud. I know he's a genetic freak. I know he's in good shape, and I know all those things. But miracle on miracle on miracle, thanking the Lord that when we went from him not maybe going to make it to, he's out of the hospital recovering, which is just a huge blessing. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, good. One of our commitments is we're always going to have you guys out here by 1 o'clock. So I'm going to have to cut that part because I got to ask you one more question, then we just have to do a little wrap up, okay? So here's put your coach hat on for a second. All right, one of the great things about gathering a room full of guys like this is what we say is one man's story adds chapters to another man's story. So what we're all hoping is we draw things from your story that builds us and directs us and gives us guidance. So anytime we have this many guys in a room, no one will look like it, but there's always somebody who's in the ditch, right? Whatever kind of ditch it is, just their hard place. Wheels are flying off. What would you say to that guy today? If you sitting across from the table, just coach him up on how to move through his season. Next step.
Mm-hmm. Man, I would just say, like, for me, the most important thing in my life is Jesus Christ. I am nothing without him. And if you're in a place where you don't know him, if you're in a place where you want to get to know him, lean on somebody at your table. Find somebody that does know him, and don't leave here without. It may take a couple days for you. It may take a week, but don't walk through the rest of your life kind of like uncertain and not knowing, because ultimately for me, like, life is hard, life is difficult, life is challenging, like every step of the way. But I know that I win in the end. And those of you in here who have professed your faith and know that Jesus Christ is Lord, and know that he's with you and you believe in him, like, you know you win in the end too, right? And so if you have friends, if you have people in this room or people outside of this room, go share your faith. Be bold in your faith. That will be my ask, I guess. And because at the end of the day, like, that's what matters.
It's so outstanding. Hey, would you guys join me in just a huge thanks to Jordan, to Colt,